Ladies and gentlemen, how about a big, warm TEDxOCU welcome all the way from Australia to today's first presenter, Mr. Peter Bond.
TEDx, just a great pleasure to be here, and appreciate everyone who's listening and watching. So my topic is about reinventing essentially energy and green energy as we know it. I've been in the energy business for 40 years, pretty much everything you can think of: coal, oil, gas, diesel power generation. You think of it, I've done it. We've invested in green, algae, all sorts of stuff. And there's clearly a big gap in the answer to the question. The question being, how do we as mankind, how do we drive forward and create a conduit from what is hydrocarbon man, what we've traditionally done in power generation, what we've done essentially, well, for the last 150 years, and move that into the future. Now, it started obviously with global warming and a green future, but it's bigger than that. And it's bigger than that on a couple of fronts. Here we are 25 years into the 21st century, and there's still in excess of 1 billion people on this planet that don't have access to electricity. And I mean virtually zero access to electricity. And out of that, there's more that have intermittent. So clearly, there's a lot more to be done. My co-founder, Steve Whitehead, and I asked a couple of these questions out loud. And one of them was, if you were going to fix this, if you were going to go forward, if you were going to reinvent power, green power, particularly as we understand it, what would it look like? Would it be modular? Would it be easy to use? Would it be 100% green? And so we went back to basics, and we started with well, essentially the solar cell. So if you look at a solar cell, what makes a solar cell work? Well, just happen to have one on me, prepared earlier. And the construct of this is pretty simple. The science of a solar cell is a PN junction inside it. So basically what that means is when the sun hits it, the particles on the inside get really excited and they jump across to the P side. That action and reaction causes the PN junction to create electrons, electricity, that powers the light bulb at home off your solar cell. But the sun has a lot more going on than just light waves. It's got gamma, it's got beta, it's got X-ray, it's got ultraviolet, it's got lots of things going on. So what if, just what if you could maybe grab one of those, let's call, say, gamma, again, something I made early on, and you could put the gamma onto the PN junction. Would it work? Could you create electricity by putting the gamma straight on? Not the light waves. Put this in a box, hide the box in the basement. Will you make electricity? And the answer is yes. It does make electricity. You can make the PN junction activate and make electrons. That's fascinating. Small problem. The silicon wafer, that is the black wafer, that is the basis of virtually all solar cell panels, melts in seconds. And so that is a problem. So we had to reinvent what is the solar panel and create a new semiconductor, a PN junction capable of taking the energy from a gamma source, something that could last for decades, if not a century, something that you could basically run for as long as you needed to. So it took a decade, millions of dollars, many thousands of man hours, but that's what we did. We created a semiconductor that can withstand a gamma source and various other sources, beta, etc., and convert that via p-n junction to electricity, to electrons. And that process is very exciting because it now opens a gateway for many possibilities. The next part of that question, the second part of the question, was, okay, can you mass manufacture the isotope part of it? If you can mass manufacture the panels, can we mass manufacture the isotope? And the answer is yes, we can. We settle on a fairly simple process of production of cobalt-60. You can just mine raw cobalt, purify it, you process it into an isotope. If you make millions of panels, we can make millions of pencils of cobalt-60. The whole model works and away you go. So now we've solved that, it sort of begs the question, you know, what do you do next? Well, you build the actual cell, which is what we did. And so that cell that you're seeing on the slide has been operating for years, but it's in fact only one of probably in excess of 100 prototypes to get to that point. That cell that you see in the slide has been operating, as I said, for a few years, but we've had boxes smaller than that operate for 6-7 years. So we now know the model works. We now know we can take the construct of the science that I just explained, the reinvention of what is a p-n junction of a solar panel, the activation of a gamma source. You can put that inside a box, and you can put that box at the bottom of a basement. You can put it in the Arctic. You can put it in the Sahara. You can put it anywhere, and it will work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, this begs some interesting questions, because we can produce the boxes by the thousands or hundreds of thousands. We now, in the first time in humans' history, can actually export power. So yeah, you can't, gas and coal and etc. are actually very clumsy. It's one of the reasons why certain areas are energy rich and other areas are energy poor. It's not that easy to A, make the power in a baseload manner, and B, distribute it via grid. But this changes that, because we can put the boxes in smaller communities, we can run microgrids. There's a whole gambit of answers that all of a sudden are available, and it's baseload power. It is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can run industry with this. We can run car plants, steel mills, cities, or the local shop, this university. So it really does start to tick all those boxes. It is the next step forward, so to speak, in what I guess we're searching for, as in a conduit to not just a green pathway transition to new power, but a smarter way of doing power. I've been, like I said, in this business for a long time, and most of our power in the world is still boiling water, making steam and spinning a turbine, just the way young Tom Edison designed it some years ago, 150 years ago, pretty close. And it's now time to and even nuclear reactors just boiling water. I'm sure you know that. But this is different. This is combining a couple of different arts and science together to get a better outcome. And the best thing about it is, as I've already intimated, it is global. We can literally put it anywhere. We can put it all through the United States. We can put it all through Europe, Asia, Africa. It can be sent anywhere in Asia. It doesn't matter. These things can be located anywhere quickly and start making baseload power. And it's green power. In fact, it's greener than most green power that exists today. And that's for lots of reasons that I don't need to go into right now. But also the energy footprint is fascinating. So that box there makes 10 kilowatts. But how does it make 10 kilowatts? Well, with this panel, you have to have one panel facing the sun, yes? For the sun to activate the PN junction. But with ours, because the gamma radiates through the panel, because the panel's essentially glass, we can put 100 of these stacked under each other. So one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. So we literally in that one, there's 200 panels. And then the source just activates all of them. Now obviously, from the top to the bottom, there's more activation at the top than it is at the bottom, but that's not the point. The point is how much energy can we get in a square meter? Well, that's 10 kilowatts, but I can stack that. I can put 8 on top of each other. So I can go 80 kilowatts, 90 kilowatts, 100 kilowatts. But we could fill up this room, and all of a sudden we're powering the entire university. Now, to have that much energy in such a small space, in such an easy manner, is really, really life-changing. So it's the combination of, A, the science is smart, but the ability to what it lets us do going forward, which is smarter. What we can do economically, what we can do socially, what we can do to bridge the gap, I guess. And you go, what gap? Well, you may or you may not know that AI consumes 17 times more power than Google when you do a Google search versus an AI search, depending on, I guess, what version of AI. But that's where you're at. And there's this massive rush for more AI. Gigawatts upon gigawatts upon gigawatts of power going into that rush. And then, of course, you've got data. Well, then this is all creating more data, which means more data centers, more cloud power, which needs more gigawatts. And then all those people driving to work are usually driving an electric car. So they need more power. And the construct goes on. I was chatting to someone earlier today. I'm older than I look. No, I'm just kidding. I am. Look, yeah, I know. When I was a boy, there were no mobile phones, no computers, no AI, no electric cars, no air conditioning. There was air conditioning, my father just wouldn't buy it. But at the end of the day, our life in the late 1960s was a very simple life and very low power consumption. I mean, a few light bulbs, a fridge, one TV set, which my mother controlled, and a washing machine. And that's it. That's literally it. That's all the power that our house had. Now, there 6 people lived in our house, 6 people and a dog, and I think our entire house with 6 people and a dog in the 60s used less power than one of my daughters in her bedroom. It's, by the time they do, and the air conditioner's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by the time everything gets done, of course, you know, I'm not just picking on my daughters, it's just the modern world. That's the reality. How are we going to bridge that gap? How are we going to do that? The reality is we need to do it in a smarter way than we currently are. That's the bottom line. You know, we as mankind have always been innovators, obviously, otherwise we'd still be living in caves, still be catching our fish by hand and our wives by hand. Now we catch our fish with nets and our wives on the internet. But it's still innovation, yes? So when you look at the great things that are changing the world, and there are many of them, if you really dive down and not too far, virtually everything in some way, shape or form is touched by electricity. Everything. The lights, the power, the air conditioning, this building, this microphone, the cameras, everything here in some way, shape or form is run by power, and yet it's becoming exponential, even more so. So what's the answer? Well, as I suggest, we believe infinite power, the power cell, is at least one of the answers. We're not saying it's the only answer. We're not saying it's a single-handed piece of utopian technology. We're just saying it's a big step in the right direction. And we need to think outside the box, pardon the pun, and start to really grab these ideas and make them real, because we really need them. We really do need them. We are massively short power, both in the Western world, the developing world. Pretty much doesn't matter where you go. If I am having a meeting in Singapore, I get halfway through this conversation, people start saying, hey, I need 4 gigawatts for this, 100 megawatts for that. If I'm in Thailand, same thing. If I'm in Britain, same thing. It doesn't matter where I am in the world. The conversation always ends up with, how can we get some more power? And that's the driving outcome of where we're at the moment. And that's what we've created with thousands of hours of work. It's the other thing worth mentioning, you were the first people to see this. Outside of investors, scientists, our workers, business people that we work with, you and the people watching are the first time this has been publicly revealed as a piece of technology that will change the world. So we can call that a first. But this is the first time we've actually gone out to say, hey, this exists. It's time to make millions of boxes. We intend to build a factory probably around Houston Port. The idea of that is that we wish to export them as well as deliver them in the lower 48. And it makes sense to be in a location where we can both export and use interstate and rail, etc. So that's where we're at. That's how we're moving forward. And it's really just touching on that topic, on the fact that we are, first of all, we need answers. And second of all, I think I'm offering one. So thank you for your time. And I appreciate this moment. Thank you.